a mixed martial arts fighter, made the decision to prioritize being a good father over a fight, choosing to attend his daughter's birthday party instead. Unbeknownst to him, this decision would put him at risk. The story begins in a gym where Octavio Bergman, the MMA fighter, is preparing for an upcoming match. Octavio writes a letter to his daughter, Leonie, who is celebrating her birthday that day. While training with other fighters, Octavio's manager and friend, Paul, enters the room. Octavio asks about the fight's start time, as he wants to make it to his daughter's party. However, due to delays, Octavio becomes worried about being late. He calls Leonie and promises to show up immediately after the fight before hanging up. Together with Paul and his trainer, Kima, Octavio heads to Nick's arena for the match. Upon arrival, they are greeted by a friendly man named Chino Wrinkler and his brother, who show respect towards Octavio. However, Octavio's opponent, Benno, comes out of his waiting room and mocks him. This only fuels Octavio's determination to defeat Benno, and he eagerly prepares in his own waiting room. Just before the match is about to start, Octavio receives a call from his ex-girlfriend and Leonie's mother, Mina. She berates him for promising Leonie that he would attend her birthday party and accuses him of breaking that promise. Octavio becomes stressed from the argument and wants to finish the fight quickly. But then, Mina's lawyer, David, calls Octavio and informs him that Mina is already filling out paperwork to take full custody of Leonie. Octavio disagrees with this decision, but Mina takes the phone from David and insults Octavio for letting Leonie go hungry. It turns out Leonie refused to eat because her father promised to bring her a cake and eat with her. Octavio realizes that failing to keep his promises is causing his daughter pain. Mina threatens that unless he arrives at the birthday party within an hour, she won't allow him to see Leonie anymore. Determined not to lose his daughter, Octavio decides to leave the arena and come up with a plan to reach the party within the hour. However, he is unaware that something bigger is happening in the arena, and it involves him. Running away unknowingly puts Octavio in danger. Chino Wrinkler catches him and begins chasing him with his henchmen. Despite the rush hour traffic making taxis useless, Octavio continues to run. However, Chino Wrinkler and his men eventually corner and overpower Octavio, successfully knocking him out. They brought him to the car and planned to take him back to the arena. However, Octavio quickly regained consciousness and overpowered everyone. He walked away from the area and received a call from his parents, who were confused about why Mina told them not to attend Leon's birthday party anymore. Shortly after, Paul called and revealed that the fight was actually rigged, with powerful individuals betting on Octavio to win. Octavio's escape angered these people, prompting them to chase him down. He ran back to the gym where he met Kima and two other fighters, Bruno and Anaka. With their help, Octavio fought off the pursuers before taking refuge in the office while the others continued to fight. Kosa followed him and demanded an explanation. After learning the truth, Kosa was shocked but agreed to aid Octavio and fought the henchmen alongside Bruno and Anaka. Octavio escaped through a window and attempted to get the attention of a passing police car, but the officers ignored him. A car barely missed hitting Octavio before coming to a stop. Frustrated, Octavio argued with the cops, almost getting arrested. On their way to the police station, Chino Wrinkler's brother crashed their car into the police vehicle. Octavio seized the opportunity to flee before Chino's henchmen, or the police could capture him again. Octavio took a short break to call Mina and apologize for not making time for Leonie. He then went to the shop to pick up the cake he had ordered for Leonie. Kosa was already there, and they were about to leave when Chino's brother entered the room and destroyed the cake, angering Octavio. Octavio unleashed a brutal beating on Chino's brother before leaving the area. On his way out, he encountered Bruno, who chased after him. Luckily, a biker named Rico came to Octavio's aid and offered him a ride. Octavio accepted the offer but soon realized he had made a mistake when Rico did not take him to the subway. He was brought to an empty parking lot and tied up to meet Dina, the powerful woman Chino got the money from, to bet on Octavio. Octavio was able to run away again and escape the parking lot, going straight to the subway station and into a closing train. A young girl helped free him, and Octavio called Leonie, only to be rejected by her. Leonie was disappointed in Octavio. Arriving at his destination, Octavio ran away once again as soon as Benno and her men appeared. Octavio entered the club and knocked down the man with BKO before facing his opponent. The club-goers circled around the duo and watched the intense match between the two MMA fighters. BKO was proven to be really strong and had managed to bring Octavio down a couple of times, but Octavio attacked him endlessly until BKO was down and couldn't get back up anymore. Taking a deep breath, Octavio walked out of the club and saw Paul at a distance. He checked his watch and realized that Paul had been tracking him. Octavio confronted Paul and confirmed that Paul had been tracking him so they could tell the others where he was, explaining why everywhere Octavio goes, he's always being found. Paul tried to convince Octavio to go back to the arena and fight, because Chino and everyone else needed him to win. Paul wanted them to win and work with Chino so they could earn more money, but Octavio firmly refused, as getting to his daughter was his only focus at the time. Octavio and Paul parted ways. Octavio checked his watch and saw that he only had 17 minutes to get to Mina's home where the party was being held. Before going to Mina's, Octavio went to his parents' house and tended to his wounds. He was resting for a while when he received a call from Paul again. Octavio stayed silent as he listened to Paul talk. Paul apologized and revealed that rigging the fight was actually his idea. Then, Paul started asking where Octavio was, and behind him, a gun was pointed at his head. Octavio sensed what was happening and told Paul that he wasn't going to make it to Leigh's birthday party and that he was staying at another friend's apartment. After ending the call, Octavio wondered if he still deserved to be a father to Leonie. He had caused her sadness every time he broke a promise. However, his father talked some sense into him, and Octavio finally decided to continue on his way to Mina's home. He sneaked out of his parents' home through the window and checked the time, realizing he only had 10 minutes left. Octavio called Paul and informed him that he was going to the animal shelter to get the cat he had planned to give Leonie as a gift. He lied about keeping the cat to himself since he wasn't going to see Leonie anymore. Paul eagerly told him that he would meet him at the animal shelter. After the phone call with Paul, Octavio called Rico and told him that he genuinely didn't know about the rigged fight. Rico understood and promised to leave Octavio alone as long as he revealed Chino's whereabouts, as Chino was the one who had done them wrong in the first place. Octavio arrived at the animal shelter and knocked on the office window, asking the guy managing the shelter to open the door and give him the cat. However, the guy still refused to let him in. Octavio called Rico again and provided him with the address of the animal shelter. Then, he called the Berlin Police Department. As he kicked the door of the animal shelter open and walked in, he reported that a police car had been rammed and the culprits were armed and dangerous. He demanded to bring in the SWAT team, insisting that the men were really dangerous. The animal shelter guy, intimidated by Octavio, did as instructed, gave Octavio the cat, and left the area. Octavio checked outside and saw Chino's men holding Paul hostage, just 4 minutes before his time was up. Silently, Octavio allowed himself to be pushed to his knees. Chino then started threatening him with a gun. Suddenly, a gunshot was fired, and Danica's men appeared, shooting at Chino and his men. Later on, the SWAT team arrived and apprehended everyone. Meanwhile, Chino had taken Octavio and Paul inside an abandoned building near the animal shelter. Chino knew that it was Octavio who had informed Danica about him, and became agitated, shooting Paul in the leg. Just as he was about to do the same to Octavio, Kosa appeared and attacked Chino. It was a 2-against-1 situation, but Chino had a weapon and was able to hold his own. He managed to knock down Kosa, but was unable to defeat Octavio, who had superior strength. Octavio pinned Chino against a pillar, and just as the time hit 0, Chino stabbed Octavio in the back with a crowbar. Octavio fell to the floor, and Chino continued to strike him with a crowbar. Meanwhile, Kima regained consciousness and attacked Chino on her own, while Octavio gathered himself together. However, Kosa was clearly losing the fight. Taking advantage of Chino's distraction, Octavio grabbed him from behind and put him in a chokehold, allowing Kima to repeatedly punch him. Suddenly, Chino jumped up and kicked Kima, causing her to hit the railings and fall. Seeing this, Octavio ran to the railings and looked down, fearing the worst as Kima lay lifelessly on the ground. Enraged, Octavio overpowered Chino and continued to beat him until exhaustion forced him to sit on the ground with his back against the wall. However, Chino still had enough strength to stand up, even as the pain from the stab wound intensified. Octavio knew he couldn't fight back anymore, so he could only watch as Chino slowly approached him. Before Chino could reach Octavio, Kima regained consciousness and climbed up, managing to kick and punch Chino down before collapsing due to her injuries. But it seemed like nothing could bring Chino down, as he stood back up and grabbed a piece of wood, ready to finish Kima with his newfound weapon. Throughout the entire fight, they had forgotten that Paul was still alive. He picked up the gun dropped by Chino and fired it at the ceiling, startling Chino. Enraged, Chino screamed and tried to intimidate Paul, but Paul fired at the wall near him, causing him to retreat. Kosa approached Paul and helped him up, while Octavio stood on his own. Paul apologized to Octavio for getting him in trouble, and Octavio, not wanting to stay angry at his friend, forgave him. He then grabbed the box containing the cat and told Paul and Kosa to leave without him. Octavio glanced at the time and realized it was already 6 in the evening. He suddenly realized that he was running out of time and only had 4 minutes left. Nonetheless, despite his tired and injured body, he made the decision to continue on his way to see his daughter. As he made his way, he unexpectedly encountered Chino once again. Octavio placed the box he was carrying on a nearby table and prepared himself for a confrontation with Chino. However, to his surprise, the latter suddenly collapsed onto the ground. Octavio used some bottled water to clean himself up, and then carefully wrapped the cat from the box in a cloth before continuing on his way. He instructed a nearby man to call the police about the unconscious Chino, and proceeded until he finally arrived in front of Mina's house. Unfortunately, his exhausted body couldn't hold on any longer, and he collapsed to the ground. The cat managed to escape from his grasp and walked away just as Lainey, Mina's daughter, came out of the house and spotted her father. Overwhelmed with emotion, Leonie embraced him, bringing him happiness. Mina also emerged from the house and witnessed the touching scene. She comforted the cat and assured David that everything was all right. Furthermore, she expressed that she no longer wished to have sole custody of Lainey. Octavio gazed at the house, and upon seeing Ina return inside, he understood the situation. Nearly overcome with joy, he embraced his daughter even tighter.